What's your favorite moment where a fanfiction writer got something laughably wrong? What's your job, hobby, special interest, or skill that you've seen portrayed so incorrectly that you couldn't ignore it? Tell us about the portrayal and share your knowledge of why it's wrong. This post brought to you by a modern AU where the main character is a middle school teacher who leaves work promptly at 3:15, 15 minutes after school lets out. If you don't have any experience with teachers, let me tell you, that's 0% how it works. Teachers have a ton of things to do once they're not actually teaching and are at school much later than the students. Also, though it did not inspire this post, my top example is an otherwise excellent fic where the main character picked up glass blowing and just set his creations on a shelf to cool down. That's a recipe for shattered glass everywhere and much sadness for everyone involved. Credit to Reddit user Rover Maelstrom for starting this thread on the fanfiction subreddit. And let's go read some answers. That florists are soft-spoken and gentle and have all the patience in the world. Complete and utter crock of shit. Every florist I've worked with has been no nonsense with a dash of shut the fuck up and let me do my job. Yep. Every florist I've ever met took absolutely no crap, knew what their time was worth, and more than a few seemed like they were actively judging me for my taste in flowers. Nice people, but soft-spoken they ain't. Coffee shop AUs. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Some people really underestimate how much you need to invest to properly run one, or the spite you can have towards certain customers when you serve them. People working in any customer service job deal with annoying people all the time of various kinds. Making the love interests annoying wouldn't faze them as much as some fics portray they would, or if it did bother them, you'd be likely on the list of customers they dislike, not a potential love interest. Same goes for any art-related people always being shy and timid. Some of them are. However, being introverted and quiet doesn't equal being always shy and timid. Various artists can use up all their patience while working on their creations, but that's why they have less patience to deal with BS overall. 99% of medical fics seem to swing between otherwise healthy character has to take an extended hospital stay both before and after a minor elective surgery and everyone thinks they're dying, and character gets heart transplant, goes home 3 hours afterwards. Also, I once read a slasher fic where someone died instantaneously from a stab to the shoulder. Like, stab, dead. 'Twas weird. I mean, if the axillary or subclavian artery was severed, you'd bleed out pretty quick. But yeah, still not instantaneously. Not job-related, but as a cigarette smoker, I once read a fic where it was described as someone lighting the butt of the cigarette. If you didn't know, the butt is the orange part that goes in your mouth. You do not light the butt. Unless it's really dark and you do so by accident. A newspaper boy going out every morning to deliver the day's issue at every doorstep. In a story set in the 1300s. Historical fiction is just a mess in general. Fashion is what always gets me though. Tight-laced corsets everywhere, no matter how anachronistic they are for the time period. Regency era? Tight-laced corset. Dark Ages? Tight-laced corset. Ancient Rome? You'd better be wearing a tight-laced corset under that stola. It's like nobody wants to do any research into historical clothing, so they just slap a corset onto every woman and think, yeah, that sounds old-timey enough. I'm a molecular biologist, and how people talk about mutations and cloning, oh boy. Not specific to fics though, it's also quite common in mass media. Like how they look at this turning, supposedly DNA helix on the screen and go, he has twice as many chromosomes as a normal person. Yikes. But yeah, whatever, I'm not grading assignments here. Also, poisons always act super fast in fiction. They don't in real life. Someone wrote that asthma doesn't cause physical disability. Ma'am, look at me in PE. I can't breathe. When a character who has never done singing or any voice training is an amazing singer and makes everyone swoon with their voice. Or when a character who's never done theater before gets a lead role in a production. As someone who does both, that is so unrealistic. Even if you are naturally talented at singing, you still need to do a little bit of training before you sound amazing. Coming from someone who has a natural talent at singing. And if you just joined a theater department, especially if you've never done theater before, do not expect a lead role. From what I've seen, 99.9% of the time you have to be in at least one production or work with the department before expecting a lead role. My ex-co-writer thought that you could write, record, and release a song to radio in 4 days. I once read a fic where a massive city's main public library let anyone print out 200 pages a day for free. And the staff got 500 a day for free. I spent an embarrassing amount of time just reading that line over and over again, totally disbelieving. Man, I only got to print for free once, and I can only assume that I looked pathetic enough for the librarian to take pity on me and pay for me. Does character has sex, then has signs of pregnancy or morning sickness that night or the very next morning count? Add to that, children acting far too advanced or not nearly advanced enough for their stated age to that list. Speaking as a mom myself. A mare or female horse delivers a foal in 3 weeks. Gestation is 11 months. And it is a baby donkey. Wrong on so many levels. Not related to a personal experience specifically, but nothing will ever top the fic I read in which a stoned human character's eyes were described as dilated to vertical slits, like a cat's. I'm a computer science student, so any scene with hacking and stuff. Not fanfiction, but fiction everywhere. Showing hay bales before the invention of the steam engine. Well, now you have my attention. It's not a big deal, it's just a pet peeve. Alongside people using matchsticks, weren't invented until after the lighter, cooling sounding like magic, when people have stored things in solid ice for hundreds of years, and people thinking the world was flat. The Greeks figured out the earth was round. Just go to the top of a mountain and you can see the land seemingly curve inwards. More of a general one that always takes me out of the story. When characters are like 23 years old and casually have high-powered corporate jobs, are CEOs, are millionaire business owners, are editors-in-chief at XYZ newspaper, whatever. It's like 99% of people in their 20s are studying, just starting out their career, or working crappy jobs to pay bills. It's just so unbelievable when all the characters in my favorite media are CEOs, celebrities, politicians in their 20s. I need to see some baristas and retail assistants in my fanfics. I mean, if this isn't obvious to everyone, the AU where all doctors are young, hot, and rich. Like, babe, medical school can take decades, and then you have residency and boards. Doctors will be poor as crap for most of their lives. The only doctors you should mooch off of are the ones who have families or the old ones. Unless you graduate by 14, it ain't happening. Other inaccuracies are all nurses are sweet. A lot of them are cutthroat and will one way or the other get you to check your weight and have someone bring up your BMI. Not a job, hobby, special interest, or skill, but I can't bear when Americans poorly write Brits, or when Brits poorly write Americans. Like, there's a pretty well-known fic that everyone seems to be obsessed with, but I just can't get past the fact that the clearly British author wrote this American character saying things like, can't be arsed and bloody. Totally took me out of it. And I'm a Brit. Me, an American who uses can't be arsed and bloody regularly. Not my hobby or job, but more a huge world event that I seriously question how you fail to catch this error situation. I scrolled past a fic in a US military show fandom, and right in the summary, it's 1999. Main character wakes from coma, injured after stepping on a landmine in Afghanistan. How on earth do you write a fic in a military fandom where the characters are active service and screw up the year America went into Afghanistan? Literally when it was a month after the Twin Towers. How do you not just Google that? How do you not generally know 9/11/2001? Then in the first chapter, the main character wakes up from a 2-month-long coma and is 100% functional, able to run around the hospital 20 minutes later, and has all their limbs after stepping on said landmine. Pretty much any fic that tries to tackle a complicated legal plot. One story in a fandom I used to write for was entirely premised on the state having the death penalty. But it was pretty common knowledge that state had abolished the death penalty. The story was otherwise fantastic, but I cringed because, in reality, it made no sense. AU where insert state here never got rid of the death penalty. I've been a practicing pagan for decades, and I'm not even gonna go into fics written by people who apparently got their knowledge of paganism from the Christian community, or possibly from Harry Potter, because I'll start ranting and it will piss me off all over again. What, you're saying Harry Potter is about magic and not about religion at all? Yes, that is my entire point. Oof, yeah. People writing about religion that they know nothing about is often just so cringy. Fics involving US military stuff, especially the Navy. I'll give a pass for stuff in fictional or mostly fictional settings, but there are a lot of misconceptions. Same with fics that involve the characters getting good at some craft like blacksmithing or woodworking nearly instantly. I practice both hobbies, and it takes forever to get good enough to make something you could actually sell to someone. How do so many people not know basic gun safety or gun cleaning? Or the amount of times people fight and shoot hundreds of rounds without ever worrying about heat buildup or having a jam once. These things contain small explosions to launch the bullet. The barrel gets damn hot fast. In general, there are also a ton of ammunition mess-ups, but since most writers work off video game logic, I just have to deal with it. Extreme weather. Deadass, this one story had the protagonist's house get slammed by a tornado, and the next day they were sleeping on a totally cleared piece of concrete. Like, huh? You do not just swish and flick a bulldozer and magically clear away a house in under 24 hours. For one, you gotta clear the roads in order to get that dozer. My favorite stories, though, are the ones that do the exact opposite of what you're supposed to do before, during, or after a natural disaster. From the same fic, walking around barefoot and driving through floodwater. Because I guess forget down power lines and hydrolocking your engine, much less getting swept away completely. I read one where one of the characters was a flight attendant. Nothing egregious, but they did spend an enormous amount of time with just the one passenger, worked only one route over and over, and had the same crew on every flight. I don't have any expertise, but once read a fic where the main character went to the dentist, out of nowhere had to get teeth pulled, and it didn't hurt, like incisors, and could speak perfectly afterwards and felt no numbness or pain. Once I read this fic where a major part of the story was set in the city I lived in at the time. The main characters booked a room in a famous hotel, and then there was a scene where they got in front of a window and were awed by the view of the whole city below them. Here's the thing. The hotel is right by the beach, which is pretty much the lowest set place in the area, which is saying a lot because my country is famously flat, relatively far from the city center, and the building itself isn't that tall, which means no such view. So I was just mystified reading this. All the zombie stories. If zombies consume the people they need to make new zombies, then mathematically, they die out quickly. I wrote my bachelor's thesis on the Enigma machine and its decryption. A few months later, I read a fanfic where a point was made about how the Enigma worked and how it was decrypted, all for some romantic symbolism. Plus it was used as a plot point for something else. It was all wrong. I am sorry. The trauma must have been immense. If being a lifelong fat person is a skill, then this one applies. I read a fic once where a fat character's breakfast was 17 different items, and even the normal ones were described for maximum unhealthiness. Like, the multiple bowls of cereal were with cream instead of milk, and the difficulty level, one scrambled egg and one poached egg for why, of preparing it all was also unrealistically high for a simple breakfast. The overall tone and tenor of the fic did not support this as fantastical or hyperbolic. It was written to be a realistic portrayal of what a woman who is 100 pounds overweight would typically eat. It's both offensive and hilarious, and I think it'll haunt me till I die. Probably prematurely from breakfast-related crimes. I was reading a fic where one character was a dryad, and another character asked what kind of oak she was. One of the other characters launched into a tirade about how in the wild, they're just oaks, and different varieties of oaks only occur in domestic populations because of human intervention. At the time I first read this, I was taking a dendrology class, the study of trees, and had a list of about a dozen wild species of oak that I needed to memorize. There are hundreds. What do you mean, fanfic writer? TV writers don't do their homework. My fiancé refuses to watch CSI and similar procedurals with me due to me screaming at the screen. I can't think of anything from a job or hobby of mine, but all I can think of is the fic where the characters bought a California King mattress for $500 without expressing any surprise at the amazing deal they were getting. I read this post when it was posted and I didn't have anything for it, but now I do. I just read one where two men have sex in a tour bus, which is a staple for band fics and always has been, but ma'am, that twin bed is not going to fit two 6-foot-tall grown men. This was a fantastic late edition. 2 thumbs up. Big thank you to my Patreon members, my Little Ruse, Kuski55, Fallen Vexen, Sam, Donka42, I'm a Noodle, John Huang, and Fantastic Wreck. Thank you so much for your extra support on Patreon, it means the world to me. I hope you guys are doing well, I wish the best for you always, and I'm very grateful for your kindness. The same goes to my YouTube channel members, my Mini Ruse, AD, Taylor Thompson, Fox Star Killer, and Logan. Thank you so much for your extra support, I'm so glad to have you be a part of my channel. Hope you guys are doing well, I wish you the best. And thank you to everyone else who watched, I hope you enjoyed the video. You let me know, what are some things you read in fanfictions where you know a lot about the subject but clearly the author didn't, and what is it that they got so wrong? Share your knowledge with us in the comments so we can avoid making these mistakes in the future. Have a great day everyone, I love you all, and I will see you in the next video.